Yeah, thanks very much. Hello, thank you, and welcome to our last in the series of sessions on a little bit of in-depth training and support, hopefully, on Teams and Skype for Business. We did Teams yesterday, went through a Teams overview, looked at Teams meetings, looked at how to collaborate with a team, and looked at the Teams mobile app. And I recommend, if you can, go back to where you came to this link. You should find the links through to those other sessions as well. Earlier on today, we did the Skype for Business overview session, which was a quick 30-minute session looking around the interface of Skype for Business just to get your head around the concept of what it's all about. And this session is our last session, which goes a little deeper into some of the options you can have and some of the options you can change to make perhaps your meetings more effective if you still are using Skype for Business for meetings. I'll do a little bit of quick housekeeping, just in case you haven't used a Skype broadcast before. We've used Skype broadcast because it's a solution that allows you to relatively easily get people to join. If you use things like GoToWebinar or Teams Live Events, which is the new replacement for Skype Broadcast, it means you have to join using one of those tools and potentially install things or get used to an interface, whereas this is very simple, and we felt this would be a really great way to engage with people. So that's why we're using Skype Broadcast. Just looking around the window that you've got in front of you at the moment to help you a little bit, top left-hand corner should be telling you that you're in the Skype for Business meetings webinar. Obviously, the main bit in the middle is the webinar is going along as we speak at the moment. There is a little scroll bar at the bottom of that picture that you can scroll back or forwards to rewind or go further forwards through the session if you're not watching it live, as well as, of course, a play and pause button. And in the middle is a little timestamp which tells you how long the session's been going and how far you are through it. And then over to the right hand side you'll find there's a volume control and also a diagonal arrow which allows you to make this screen or what's being presented completely full screen in case it's a little bit small for you to see what's going on. Coming to the top of the screen, you'll see there's a support link which will take you through to Skype for Broadcast support. And the Cadence Innova website, which is where you'll find out a little bit more about us, Cadence Innova. You can sign up and ask them questions if you wish, or contact us if you've got some more requirements or thoughts or needs that you might have around remote working at this particular time, which is a bit tricky for all of us, of course. This was recorded, by the way, on the 1st of April, just in case anyone's listening sometime later, just at the height of all of us being locked down in the UK and elsewhere in the world as well. So remote working is something coming obviously to the fore. Just above our website link, you'll find a couple of arrows to the right. That will get rid of that Skype Q&A window, which is on the right-hand side. You can choose to do that again to give yourself a little bit more space on the screen. Otherwise, Skype Q&A, pop in your name, pop in your question and ask us or ask anonymously, and then we can reply to you if you do have a question. If it's a particularly good question or an interesting question, then we may choose to broadcast that question and that answer for other people so they don't have to type in the same question again. And then if they like that question, they can just put a little heart next to it. As I say, if you want to hide that window out of the way just so you can get going, then you can do using those little arrows next to the website link. I'm also joined by one of my colleagues, which is lovely lady Louisa, who is going to be looking and monitoring the Q&A and making sure any questions get through to me so we can deal with them live on the webcasts. Louisa, sorry, I meant to introduce you earlier as usual. I keep on doing that. Do come on in and say hello.
No issues. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to your questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. I assume we haven't got any yet?
Nothing yet.
Excellent. Okay. Do post your question if you do have something you want to talk to us about, and we will try and help. Otherwise, I think let's get straight on and have a look at what things look like on the actual interface for Skype for Business. So here we are looking at the Skype for Business window at the moment. I was talking a little bit earlier on about the Skype overview that I did. So here's where your groups are and your various contacts that you may have added into them. Here's your history of what you've been doing in Skype from a potential phone call or a potential chat message point of view. But the meetings one is sat here on meetings. Now, One thing you may notice is a little banner across the middle here telling us that Skype for Business is going to be upgraded to Microsoft Teams. It is. Skype for Business is going to go away in the probably the middle of next year. June 2021 is when Microsoft have got it scheduled at the moment to retire, to be replaced by Microsoft Teams. We did sessions, as I say, on that earlier on this week. But if you wanted to try it, your organization may have turned on this little banner in Skype. You may or may not see this. But if you start to see this, it would be a good indication your organization is about to move across or starting to move across to Teams. You can try it by clicking on the try it button, or you can get rid of the little pop-up if you want to and keep it out of the way, which I'll do for the moment to save confusion. So here we are in my meetings window in Skype for Business. You'll notice I haven't got any at the moment. Well, that's fine. How would I create a new meeting? Well, that's simple enough by going to your Outlook as you normally would. If I go through to my calendar today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a new meeting request. So I can right click on that time and choose new meeting request. I can say it's a test SLB meeting. I can invite anybody else I like. I'm going to invite myself from somewhere else. That all seems great, but it hasn't got the Skype information in it, of course. That location is still blank. You'll notice that I've got a couple of options here because I'm running both Skype and Teams. I could choose to add Teams meeting details to this meeting, or I could choose to add Skype meeting details to the meeting. All I need to do is click on join. All I need to do was add Skype details. That has immediately changed to being join Skype meeting. Now, what that's done is made that the location. I can now say, please join me as something in the middle of the invitation. But below that, you'll see that there's a link there to join the Skype meeting itself. And if you have trouble joining, you can join using the Skype web app. That's typically for people who haven't got Skype Business installed. They can join using a web-based version. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. What I would say is you may have different options in your organization. Your organization may have allowed for audio conferencing, for example, in which case you would see in this meeting invite, you would see a little bit more information about how you can join the meeting using your phone, perhaps with a phone number, local numbers to dial, and options for calling you back, perhaps. All of those options depends on your organization. This is a simple organization, so all it has is the Skype meeting application itself. But as I say, if you had audio conferencing, you may see phone dial-in details in here as well. One other thing I would point out is that once you've added Skype to your meeting in Outlook, you'll find there is an option that says meeting options. This allows you to change a little bit about your meeting, and it's worth thinking about this as you create your meeting that you may want to change. Some things are set by default, typically by your organization, but also you can make some changes to the way in which your meetings work. And if you want to repeat that and always have that happen when you create new meetings, you can choose to do that. So at the moment, these people don't have to wait in the lobby is the first option that you've got here on permissions. The lobby is a feature that allows you to keep people in a holding area, if you like, very much like a lobby, funnily enough, before they get invited into the meeting. And the typical reason for doing that is that inside your organization, for example, you may have created a meeting with people outside your organization. You want to come into the meeting, settle yourselves down, make sure you know what it is that you're talking with your customer or your client or your supplier, perhaps. And then when you're ready to invite those external people in, they can come along, join, sit there in the lobby waiting for somebody to let them in, and then join them in. Now, there's a little bit of information around that, which a link there that says, how do I use this? Or why do I use this? And that may help you a little bit. Typically, I would recommend that anyone from my organization is allowed to come and join a meeting straight away. What's been set here in this particular organization is anyone, no restrictions. So anyone can join the meeting, whether they're inside your organization or outside your organization, they come straight into the meeting. You may want to consider changing that to anyone from my organization. It depends how you wish. The second thing is that there are two different roles in a Skype for Business meeting. There's a presenter role, in which case you have the ability to present content. You have the ability to end the meeting, for example. It gives you a fairly high level of permission. And what I would suggest is that for most meetings, probably anyone from your organization, so anyone internal to the organization, would be reasonable to have as being your presenters, because you kind of trust them. You can change that and say, actually, only people I choose can actually be presenters. And then you'll have an option here to choose presenters. So it will then list the people that are in your meeting invite, and you can choose to add them to the presenters list or not. I can't add, of course, Angus to the presenters list in the meeting here because he's not in the organization. I can change that when we're in the meeting. I'll show you that. But as it stands at the moment, I can't do that. If I had somebody else there, I could choose to so I can choose presenters if I want to. Typically, as I say, I tend to leave that for anyone in my organization. If you wanted to leave it for anybody, internal or external, then they can present and share content, etc. They also can let people into the meeting, which is one of the reasons why I tend to restrict that down to just being my organization. You could choose to disable some things in the meeting as well. You could stop people from being able to chat in the meeting. You could mute all of your attendees. So anyone who isn't a presenter will join, but they will join muted so that they don't disturb the rest of the meeting. A good idea for meetings of larger size in Skype for Business. Supports up to 250 people, can get unmanageable with that, particularly if everyone's talking at the same time. And the last piece would be blocking attendees' video. Perhaps you don't want to see everybody sitting in their pajamas or sitting outside sipping a glass of water. I'm trying to be as even as possible. So you might want to block that to not allow people who are joining as an attendee to use their video. Most important two sections here I would suggest you can think about is whether people wait in the lobby or not, and make that experience for join as easy as possible, and who is a presenter. If you like those settings and you always want your next meetings that you create to use those same settings, then click the Remember Settings button. Otherwise, I can just say OK to that. I can type in a bit of text about the meeting, of course, and then pretty much that's all good to go. That's just a meeting invite. It does indeed occur in the past. That's fine. I don't mind that. I'm trying to do that on purpose because I should get a little pop-up appear to let ready to start. So the usual reminder window in Outlook has popped up telling me that there is a meeting about or available to me. It's actually overdue because I set it so long ago. That's okay. I can do the usual things like snooze and dismiss it. But because it's a Skype meeting, and you should see this for Teams meetings as well, typically it only works for Microsoft meetings, of course. So Teams and Skype are the only ones typically that are supported by this. But you'll notice there's a Join Online button. That would allow me to just click on that, and that will open up the meeting in Skype because I'm running Skype on my machine. Skype here is just taking a little while to update the fact that it doesn't think there are any meetings, but there are. It will get there eventually once it's figured out what's going on. Sometimes can take a little while for that synchronization to come through. But typically that shouldn't take too long, but I am running on a kind of test system here. Let's have a look at this now then. It could also be that because it's in the past. What I'm going to quickly do is create one a little later on in the day so you can see what that looks like. I'll do a quick meeting request. We'll kind of test a new call, and I will add if I could type my own name, I would be dangerous. So I'll have me externally, and I will have my lovely friend Louisa, and I'll have both of them on there, and then I will make it again, just to remind you, a Skype meeting. So I will then send that invite through to there. And now I have two different calls appearing in my Outlook calendar. That won't appear in the pop-up there, of course, but in Skype, I'm hoping that may be in my afternoon. So when you're looking at meetings in the Skype interface, it is trying to show you anything that's coming up. It won't show you ones that you should already have attended because they happened in the past. I think is the key piece there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the meeting and see what those options look like. While that's doing that and thinking about that a little bit, I'll come back across to Louisa. Have we had any questions in yet, Louisa, or are we okay to keep going?
We are okay to keep going. No questions so far.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. So when I choose to join the meeting, I have some options to join the Skype meeting. I can choose to use Skype for Business Full Audio. That means I'm using my PC for joining the video and audio part of the call, as well as seeing what's being presented or shared. I would recommend you have a Microsoft certified headset or speaker box to help you make the most effective use of that for great potential for noise cancelling for people who are chatting around you. The PC microphone speakers that come with most laptops are a little bit poor. They tend to pick up a lot of things. They tend to pick up people going when they're typing, that kind of thing. So using a speaker box or a headset, USB connected with those hardware controls so you can mute yourself without having to hide for the hunt for the mute button on the screen could be a useful suggestion. You may have that option, as I say, about dial in to Skype for Business meetings. So this option won't work for me, although I can choose it. It's a bit silly. It doesn't know that I haven't got audio conferencing, but you may have that option to allow it to call you at a phone number. You can choose that as an option as well. And you could choose the option don't join audio. Typically, the only reason you would do that is when you're in a meeting room already and somebody else has joined the meeting and they've got it perhaps working on a speakerphone in the middle of the desk in the meeting room, and you don't want to look at what's being shared or presented on your PC as well, just because you want to keep it in front of you, perhaps, to stop you potentially causing an echo into the meeting, so that everything starts to feed back through your laptop and also through the speaker box or speakerphone that's in the room. If somebody's joined the audio already, then make sure you click don't join audio. At the moment, as most of us are working independently from home, I suspect that won't happen that often. So most of the time, you're actually going to be using Skype for Business full audio and video experience. You could choose not to show this option again. I don't recommend ticking that box, purely because sometimes you may well not want to join the audio because you are with somebody else who's already in it, or you may want to make some changes. But you can, if you want to, unhide that box by looking at options again. Get into the meeting, which takes a second or two to arrive, and then we're in. So although we're the only person in the call, that's fine. Doesn't make much difference as far as having a look around the meeting options that I wanted to show you and concentrate on. Let's take you a little bit around the interface here. A couple of things to draw attention to. The first one is picking a layout. One thing that a lot of people have trouble with is that they don't necessarily want to see everybody that's on the screen. They want to see what's being presented, perhaps. So if you click this little option here, which is a bit hidden, you will see, depending on what's happening in the meeting, some different options in here. One option is speaker view, which is what we're looking at the moment. And that's the only one that's available because we're not presenting anything, or nobody else is presenting anything. When we start presenting something, I'll show you that this will change, and you can then you can choose between speaker view, gallery view, and content view. And if you're trying to concentrate on what's being shared and you don't really care about the little icons or the pictures of people or their video, then clicking this option and choosing content view will be able to make the content full of the screen in Skype for Business, as opposed to seeing all those other icons that are going around. Can make it easier for you to focus and see what's being shared or presented. Next to that is a little diagonal arrow. I mentioned the diagonal arrow about the Skype broadcast earlier on. That basically means that it will turn your screen full screen. So if I choose that, all of the little borders have gone from around the edge of the Skype for Business window, the meetings window, and it's made it as big as possible and taken all of your icons across the bottom away as well. If you want to come out of that, press the escape button if you do it by accident, or press the arrows that are going the other way, and that will take you back out of full screen view. Just below that, you'll notice a little signal strength. That's telling you how well the network is doing, and that can depend on, obviously, at the moment, the internet is being used fairly heavily by a whole bunch of people all over the place. So that can have an effect on how well the network or the internet is holding up for the meeting. It will tell you whether the network quality is poor or not. That could be related to what's going on in your house or where you're working from. It could be that a lot of people are using the internet at the moment. And so this may change red, but it will give you a warning that you may therefore experience some issues, and other people might hear you breaking up, for example. It typically gives you an indication on signal strength as to whether that's the problem. This little timer is the amount of time you've been in the meeting, not how long the meeting has been running for. If you notice the little timer in Teams meetings, that actually shows you how long the meeting has been running for and was started, not just how long you've been in it. But in Skype, this just shows you how long you've been in the meeting. If I wanted to add somebody into the meeting, I'd forgotten to add them to the invite perhaps, I can choose the plus button. I can then go and find somebody in my organization, or if you have that audio conferencing enabled so you can place external calls out of the Skype meeting, you could potentially put in a number there and it would then go and call that person and bring them into the meeting. If I put in somebody from my organization, for example, then that would typically then go and call them and bring them directly into the meeting using Skype for Business. Looking towards the bottom of the screen, then we've got some options here. One option is my video, so I could choose to turn on my webcam if I wanted to. It gives you a little preview so that you can make sure that everything's okay. I'm a little close to the camera, but there I am. So I can choose to do that if I wanted to, and I could say start my video. It does at least give you the chance to potentially sort your hair out or put the appropriate hat on. I have a hat with a C on today for the Chicago Cubs. I have also got the option to mute, of course. If you have that headset that I was talking about, the Microsoft certified headset, you can choose to use mute on that headset potentially, and that may well work as long as I say it's Microsoft certified. Then I'm pressing the mute button would automatically mute me on the screen as well. It's worth using mute on the screen though. It lets other people know that you're muted. And that can be very helpful. I can choose to do some sharing if I want to. So we'll have a look at what the sharing options are. I can choose to share my desktop. So it will do pretty much what you expect it to do. It will allow you to share your desktop into the meeting, and that's no problem at all. That's fine. Bear in mind that when you share your desktop, typically by default, Skype will put you into Do Not Disturb. So you won't see Skype messages, but you may see other messages pop up like Outlook messages or mail messages or other instant messaging apps. So be careful when you're sharing a desktop because everybody can see what's happening on your desktop. You might want to share just a window. Skype's not brilliant with just sharing windows. If another window appears over the top, for example, then a big black box appears over what people are seeing when it's being shared. But if you want to restrict people from not seeing everything that could pop up on your desktop, sharing a window is probably a really good option to choose. I could choose to share PowerPoint files. I'm not sure if I've got the PowerPoint on a particular piece. Okay. In there. So what that allows you to do, and it can be very helpful, is in actual fact I should see, no, I haven't got anything. Unfortunately, this machine is a very empty machine at the moment, and I haven't got a PowerPoint deck I can give you an example on. But PowerPoint deck sharing is quite useful. One of the things it does give you is it gives you some options to potentially highlight or act as a laser pointer across your PowerPoint deck, which can be quite useful. So sharing PowerPoint files can work really well for you. One thing I would point out that there's no real way in Skype for Business to share pre-recorded video. So if I wanted to share a video clip or a video file through Skype for Business, it doesn't really work very well. The sound doesn't come out properly. It comes out a little bit unsynchronized and it doesn't look too good. So if you're going to want to do that, you're going to need to look at a different platform like Teams or Zoom and get a Skype for Business if you're likely to do that. I could choose to co-author an Office document. This, of course, has Office 365 behind it, so I could start to open up an Office 365 document and work together with other people on it. I could choose to add attachments to the meeting. It's something that not many people do, but if you had got an attachment, perhaps it was a PowerPoint deck that you wanted to put into the meeting so that anyone who joins the meeting can download it, then you could choose to do that. I could choose to share some notes and create some notes either shared with the meeting or just my notes on my own. What this will do is it would start up OneNote and allow you to start capturing electronic notes in a OneNote notebook. I'd recommend you use that if you do want to start keeping your notes together, and it allows you to actually handle that a little bit better from a sharing point of view, because I can then share out those notes and email them to everybody or leave them just shared with the meeting itself. Not many people notice the more option. I'm going to click on it just in case. There is a rudimentary whiteboard that's available in Skype for Business. When I say rudimentary, it is rudimentary, and it's also sometimes quite tricky to draw with a mouse. So it's better if you have got a touch sensitive device like an iPad or a tablet type of device to do that kind of drawing. You can create a poll. So a very quick and simple poll that's available in the meeting. You can choose to create that, ask the questions, put in the answers, open up the poll, and people in the meeting can then choose to respond to that poll. And also a Q&A window, a little bit similar to the Q&A window that you've got on the right-hand side of this broadcast, actually takes over the chat session so that people can ask questions. You can post answers back, and that's kind of another option there. So these three are usually a little bit hidden. Some people want to use them, some don't, but they're hidden under more. And then finally, manage content. Anything that's been uploaded to the meeting, perhaps you've been sharing a PowerPoint deck or you've added some attachments, would appear in this list. And if you want to, you can then choose how you want to handle permissions or other things with that. Give me 1 second while I just see if I can. At least I thought it. You'll notice I've just minimized or hidden the Skype for Business meeting window, but it's kept this little window open here, telling me the amount of time is going. I could choose to mute myself or leave the call. It's a quick way if I'm trying to do something else, listen to a meeting, but I'm not necessarily fully focused on it, then I can do that, but I can then quickly get back to the meeting by just double clicking on that window. I have found something that may work as a PowerPoint file. I'm not sure if it will, but we'll give it a go. So I've chosen my template. It happens to be a PowerPoint template file as opposed to actually a PowerPoint deck, but the same thing should give the same effect. That can take a few minutes to upload into the Skype for Business system. I would point out and flag this 26 minutes into the session, I do have to remind you again that Skype is going away next year. Microsoft aren't putting a lot of investment at all into Skype and just keeping the service pretty much running and hoping for the best. Teams is its replacement and a lot more robust. And this is a good example of where Skype sometimes starts to fail, is because although I'm choosing to upload that I'm choosing to upload that into the meeting. It says it's uploading it and it's going round and round in circles. That can happen. It thinks it's now showing. In actual fact, it isn't. And this is an example of where, as I say, Skype is starting to potentially start to creak a little bit and is causing a little bit of a problem. But it gives me an example of what things look like in the manage content window. So the PowerPoint deck that I put in, I can choose to stop showing, for example, which I'm going to do because it's not showing properly anyway. I could choose to change its permissions so that only certain people can choose to download it or work with it. So I might choose to allow everyone to actually download it, or I might choose presenters can download it. It depends. If you can choose to remove it from the meeting as well if you want to, and also you can start to do some other items around it, like renaming it, viewing it privately so you can see what's in the deck without anyone else noticing what's going on. And also I could potentially even annotate the deck and start to make some writing, some scribble all over it, and then I want to save that. As I said, I kind of cheating a little bit, and I must admit it's a PowerPoint template, which I think it's having a little bit of a struggle with. I'm going to go back into manage content, and I'm going to stop sharing for the moment. A couple of other windows to kind of show what's going on as far as who's in the call. Over on the left-hand side, you've got a couple of buttons. One is the chat window, so I could choose to open the chat. I could say, hi everyone in the meeting chat. Everybody can reply and post in that chat unless you disabled it in those meeting options. But if I click on the little people at the top here, I'm the only person in the meeting. But it does mean that you can see a little bit of information about me. So I'm in the meeting, I've in the chat conversation, I haven't turned my camera on, I'm not muted, and I have been looking and doing some I've been watching the presentation. I could choose to right click on me and mute. That would mute me. One of the other things that you'll notice is that there are a button marked participant actions. And what participant actions allows you to do is allows you to mute everybody or do some of those options that we were looking at when we were setting up the meeting invite. We might want to hide everybody's name so people can't see who everyone else is, make everybody an attendee so they haven't got the permissions that you've seen earlier on, and also potentially mute the entire audience. And that's done from that participant window and participant actions. To get rid of those, you can just click on the little two crosses at the top here. The last little bit I wanted to show you is here on the little telephone icon. Again, depends to a certain extent on some of your organization options, but you would be able to potentially put this call on hold, or perhaps even transfer it to your mobile phone, for example, if you're walking out of the office, if your organization has enabled that. Devices would show you the devices that are connected to your PC you can use for Skype audio. So you could choose the mic and speakers on the PC, or perhaps a headset that you've connected. And then lastly, the triple dots in the right hand corner here has got some other options. Mainly the one that most people are interested in is that they're going to want to start recording. If you choose to start recording, that's fine. It will pop up a little banner to let people know that recording has started. It gives a little indication in the top right hand corner as well. I can choose to now click on the triple dots, and I can then choose to pause recording if I don't want to capture the piece that I'm actually going to talk about for a couple of minutes, or even stop the recording. And then managing recordings is because recordings of Skype for business meetings happen locally on your PC. You can then go and manage those recordings and have a look at what they're looking like. If there was some dial-in information, I could choose to see what that dial-in information is. This one's just a plain meeting with a link in it, so there's not much information there. The other couple of options in the triple dots, Skype meeting options, which is the same as that options window we were looking at when we created the meeting. We can now choose to change that if we wanted to and say, okay, anybody can come into the meeting, we'll stop restricting people. And lastly, down the bottom there is some help. And this last option, which I will hit in a moment, is the end meeting option. When you're in Skype for business meetings, even if you're the organizer, as long as everyone's in the meeting and everyone's okay, you can leave on your own by just closing the Skype window, but that doesn't end the meeting for everybody. If you want to end the meeting for everybody, a bit like turfing everybody out of the meeting room and shutting the meeting room door, you can do that by clicking on the triple dots and choosing end meeting, and that will throw everybody out of the meeting and make sure that everybody is left, so that nobody's left potentially talking to people they're not. I can choose to stop that recording now, so the recording has stopped. It lets everybody know via that yellow banner that recording has stopped. What's going to happen is that that's now going to start to get processed. In fact, we may be able to see that processing is happening. It's not appeared in my list of things yet. So what that will do is be worked out on the PC. If I click on the triple dots and go to manage recordings, you can see that it's processing the recording that they did on that. It tells you where it is. You can then choose to play or publish it or copy it somewhere else. I'm now going to click the triple dots and choose end meeting and say thank you very much. That's the end of this meeting. I've enjoyed it. That takes us, of course, back to the main desktop window. Actually, that takes us to the end of the session today. Apologies, I've gone a couple of minutes over, but we are now towards the end of the session about the meetings piece. That's taking you all around the meetings invite piece. That's taking you around the meetings window as well, hopefully. Louisa, bless you for being patiently and diligently looking at questions and seeing what they're coming through. Have we had any come in?
I'm afraid not. Nothing.
Okie dokie, that's good. Either I've explained things tremendously well, or we're in for some other surprises. So thank you for that, Louisa. I appreciate you looking at that and keeping an eye on it. As I say, we've run through meetings, how to create them in Outlook, how to add the Skype pieces, the meeting options you can add, and then what the meeting looks like and some of the interaction when you're in the meeting. If you haven't got any other questions, the Q&A session will stay open for some time during this week. Keep an eye on it. You can post in a question there. Click on the website, as I say, top right hand corner, the Cadence Innova website. You can contact us there if you wish. If you have anything else that you want to contact us with, please do get in touch. The last session that we're running this week is a session on Friday, which we're looking at some other collaborative tools, such as Planner and Delve, and some other things that come from Office 365 typically by default. It'd be lovely to see you there as well. You may have some general questions that you may not have been able to ask because you haven't been able to figure out the Q&A window yet. But otherwise, it just remains me to say thank you very much to Louisa for joining me and looking after me. Thank you, Louisa.
My pleasure.
And say thank you very much to everyone else who has joined the broadcast today. It's been a pleasure. Let's keep safe. Let's stay well. And if you have got anything else, please do come through to us at patentsinova.com. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a good rest of your day and week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.